So good morning, goedemorgen. In English or in Dutch? So is everyone understanding English? I assume yes. So this might be easier. So I'm replacing Willy Raemdonck. You might have the attentive spectator might have noticed that the picture at the entrance is not corresponding with my face, but that's fine. I'm, let's say, taken from the bench because of illness of my colleague. So I will try to give you a flavor on the Callebaut warehouse that has been built approximately from 2019-2020 and has been known its implementation in 2021. So basically, you got a presentation from Terimo regarding production. So I take it one step further or one step behind. You can consider it the way you want. It's, let's say, from a distribution perspective. And we're talking mainly about finished products. So that means that if I go back in time, and I go back to 2016, then basically Callebaut noticed that growth plans would not, comply, or I would say the capacity of their warehouses wouldn't comply anymore with the growth plans that were considered. Furthermore, the supply chain setup with different warehouses, transport in between, etc., were not, let's say, justified from a financial and from a logistics setup, and therefore also created a, let's say, higher complexity as such. So if I consider now the journey that has been taken, and I will go more into detail in the next slides, in 2016, a location study was performed. So taking into account the business that would be growing, taken into account how certain markets were developing, a study was done on where should be, let's say, the new European distribution center, which is also now a certain global function. This study was done in 2016, but also reconciled against the reality at that point in time from an economical perspective. And three important topics were considered, for which we did basically a sensitivity analysis to regions that were initially not the chosen one, and I explain myself. So the idea was initially to have, let's say, a DC, a distribution center, which was located near to the production facility in Lebeke. For the people that are from Belgium, they know it's very close to Dendermonde, also in East Flanders. We did a sensitivity analysis with regions in the southern part of Netherlands, which might sound very exotic, the western part of Germany, and the northern part of France. And the parameters that were considered at that point in time was not only, let's say, the logistics setup and the way supply chain should look like from a service perspective, but also factors like what is the price per square meter, what is the cost in order to, let's say, build a warehouse at that location. This was one parameter. The second one was, are resources available in the region as such? And what is the cost of the resources? And I'm not only talking about blue-collar workers, but I'm talking also about management and so on. And the third parameter, last but not least, was if we move away from the current location, how do we ensure that we keep the necessary competences in the organization, or how do we avoid that there is a quality loss, basically, in the operations when we move from a location A to B, and that people would not follow as such? So basically, before talking about how this was managed, we made first a business case on what solution should be considered as a DC, as a distribution center. So you see on the slide that we calculated the existing cost with the current network, the current setup, and we considered three solutions. One, it's a distribution center which would be outsourced. Another one is where we said, okay, we will extend the existing facility where it is now with certain restrictions in setup, automation, and so on. And the last option that we considered, or the fourth option, was what if we would consider a new DC with, let's say, the adapted technology and automation as such. So finally, the ideal solution seemed to be, let's say, the single warehouse solution, new facility. And overall, the results were as well important from a financial as from an operational perspective. This is what you can read here. There were annual cost savings recurring from approximately 14% compared to, let's say, the current situation. We also had the possibility to reduce the severance cost, and actually the severance cost was zero because we didn't move away more than 20 kilometers from the existing facility, which meant that all people that were initially working in Lebbeke also moved to Lokeren, and I will show the details later on. The warehouse that has been built is not designed with, let's say, how would I call it? The latest technology or the most advanced technology, but has been designed with the technology which is appropriate for the future and which is justifying the business case. Meaning that we have implemented a warehouse on a staggered approach with an investment horizon toward 2032 with the idea, first the business, then we will extend. And the technology that was used at that point in time was then not a fully automated warehouse, but a combination with a high-bay solution and white aisle, which I will show later. As I just mentioned, we were able to keep, let's say, the logistics know-how in the company, and we had the flexibility, as I stated, to extend the warehouse basically if we see that the business is further developing the way we have projected it. Coming back to the severance, so we wanted to avoid attrition. Attrition meaning that your important resources are leaving the company, that you need to build up knowledge and then potentially having an impact on your business or any disruption because of lack of expertise or availability of people. So we performed a study together with, let's say, an HR agency where we tried to find the correlation between distance of moving away of an existing location toward the attrition rate that we might face. And we found out that if we stay in a range or in an axis radius of approximately 20-25 kilometers, that our severance and attrition rate would basically be very low, which I showed in the beginning, which is approximately zero now. So everyone from the existing location went to the new one and was able to be retrained basically for certain areas that were new from a technology and from a processing point of view. Important topic is, one, that we designed an economics or a solution which is economically justified. The second dimension why this project was considered as a success is that there was, let's say, a very good relationship with, let's say, the unions, that there was a very good relationship and communication with staff. So we didn't face any business disruption as such from the point in time that it was communicated to start with a new project until, let's say, final implementation as such. So that means economically justified and corresponding to the business needs of today and the future. Secondly, having, let's say, a social balance and, or would I say, an approach that has ensured basically that we didn't have any disruption from that point of view. As a solution, I spoke about, let's say, the appropriate solution. And what we notice in the market overall, beside Callebaut, is that today, with having had COVID and still having COVID, knowing the situation in Ukraine, we see that in many cases, when we start comparing the ideal warehouse solution, that the balance between a fully automated solution and a manual solution is changing. And this is all to do with prices of raw material. This is all to do with availability. In this case, we are talking about 2017, 2018. We have been careful, as I just stated, taking into account that we first wanted to see that the business is developing in the direction that we initially expected toward 2032, and that we had a solution which was extendable basically for the future and still providing the same productivity or even higher, and if needed, integrating more into automation, like, for example, narrow aisle solutions when it would be necessary. So what I'm telling here, or what I'm showing here, is that we considered three solutions as such: white aisle, narrow aisle with white aisle, and high-base solution with a white aisle. So from an investment point of view and from a surface use point of view, it was also clear that this was, let's say, the better solution or the better option that we could consider. So overall, one might ask the question, yes, if you see such a distribution center, if I consider the costs that are occurring at that point in time, how should I consider it? And in this case, I would like to cluster a few topics. If you see, for example, I excluded, let's say, the cost of the plot, right? The cost of the land as such. But when we are considering basically the automation part, it's representing approximately 50% of the total investment. Quite important in this case, as I just showed, this is mainly then the white aisle and the high bay solution as such. Overall, and we could justify the business case and high cost savings, shorter payback. We could support, let's say, or we will support the growth strategy as such. We reduced complexity in the logistics network. As I stated in the beginning, we were using multiple warehouses in order to shift raw materials, finished goods back and forward, left and right. So now everything is at one location with enough capacity as such, which is immediately an impact on efficiency. And we also noticed, because of that reduced complexity, that we could also increase customer service. That means B2C as well as B2B as such. So currently, there is approximately 60,000, so to give you a few numbers, there's approximately 60,000 square meters of storage, in total 125,000 pallet locations, and in the automated high bay, approximately 80,000. So this is the technical solution. So I spoke about the economical solution, I spoke about the technical solution, I spoke about, let's say, the social balance that we were able to keep. Last topic, which is quite important, is sustainability. And sustainability, nowadays, we know how important it is to consider the environment and the impact. So sustainability was composed from three topics, basically. It's one, the environmental impact. It's two, let's say, from an energy perspective, and three, from an economic point of view. So from BREEAM, we were certified as outstanding. Don't ask me to explain again BREEAM, because it's building requirements, establishment, and environmental assessment method, right? Don't ask me twice to repeat it, but basically it's the highest standard you can apply basically from a sustainability point of view. And furthermore, the building that is in use and which was developed by, in this case, WDP, together with Willy Raemdonck, just to give you an insight, the building is energy positive. So that means we produce more energy than we consume. And as I just stated, sustainability is important from an environmental point of view, but also, and let us be very honest about that one, it's also marketing. When you can state that your company is working in this way and that the awareness about sustainability, environmental is that important, this has also an impact on your sales. This has also an impact on your business. Now, you might say, you didn't show videos, you didn't show very fancy pictures as such, besides the idea you get here from, let's say, the distribution center itself. I can tell you that when you contact Barry Callebaut through their normal PR services, then you can visit the warehouse without any problem, because inside the distribution center there is a kind of museum which has been created basically in order to give you an insight on all the topics that I've been mentioning here. And furthermore, it's a promise I made, but Willy is not here. When you go over there, you get a box of chocolate anyhow. That's something I can ensure. What we want to highlight too, we know Belgium, Flanders, Wallonia, it's regions where it's difficult to invest. Not because one specific topic, but it's often that different parties need to work together. And what we witnessed here basically is that there was an extremely strong cooperation and one-way approach between the customer, the company that has been doing the design, WDP as, let's say, the developer, but also local authorities. Lokeren has been supporting extremely well. So that means that the timeline that was requested to go live in 2021, knowing that an initial network study started in 2016, this is very tight, this is very narrow. Because you need to know that the design of such a warehouse, starting from a concept design until a final ramp-up and implementation, easily takes 2.5 years, 3 years. And this is a point which was why we wanted to bring this story here toward you, that is not only that it is possible to invest in Flanders or in the region, but also that the make industry and the distribution possibilities are still very high as such. So I hope I could give you a little bit of an image of what has been happening there. Are there any questions that I can answer very rapidly? And otherwise, I'm available at the bar for further discussions or for further information. Thank you.